Hello, this is Izzy. I'm here with a sketch from my upcoming Patreon reward and Gumroad video in my Izzy's Logic of Light and Color series, Episode 3, Keying the Field. In that video, I'm explaining the ultra-important concept of value keys and how they can give you systematic control over your paintings. So look forward at the beginning of next month on Patreon or Gumroad. So I decided to make this video because I've been getting lots of questions on portfolio construction lately. And I decided, since I already filmed this video, I might as well do a little bit of talk on portfolios over it. So real common questions I'm hearing would be, what should I put in my portfolio? How many pieces should I put in it? What sort of artwork will get me the job? And strangely, does it need to be in print or online? So I feel like the portfolio discussion is really heavily covered, and with a fair Google search, you should be able to find all the information you're looking for. In fact, I'm a big fan of the great portfolio do's and don'ts on Chris Oatley's site, chrisoatley.com. I'll include a link below in the description of the video. But his is specific to illustration, but I think it works great for concept art too. So definitely give those a read if you haven't read them already. So knowing that all of this information is out there and it's fairly easily Googleable. Is that a word? Googleable? Googled? It's easily Googled. I'm going to just kind of share my perspective on portfolios and talk with you guys about, my thought processes on those particular questions. In terms of experience, obviously I've had to run around and get hired, but also I've had a fair amount of experience on the hiring side as well as the years have passed and gray hairs come. So what should you put in your portfolio? Well, there's tons of ways to approach this. And not one of them is better or worse. It's just kind of how you're going to build your philosophy on how you get work. So, you could approach it from the, I'm going to get a job, I need to make money system. And, you would do that by studying very closely what is very popular, what is being made right now, and then emulating that and pumping out images that are high quality and getting those pushed into your portfolio as fast as possible. The downside to that is that usually the stuff that you're seeing coming out right now that is concept art was done for projects that are a year or more older, and it's tough to sort of stay on top of things when things are changing so quickly on the inside of the industry and you're trying to break in. It is a good method, though, because at the very least you will have kind of a starting point. You're going to have a litmus test and a clear path to follow in order to get the job that you want. So making money is a completely valid way to build your portfolio. Another way might be if you're looking to make waves. So in that vein, you might want to start putting things into your portfolio that are groundbreaking or are saying something interesting, or you are using projects that are kind of on the edge of interest right now. Now, obviously, this is a risk-taking venture. You don't know if the stuff that you are putting in will be interesting or worthwhile when you're sitting at that table doing your interview, or if it'll just creep people the fuck out. I have certainly been in that position. But the upside is you're going to be memorable, guaranteed. The other way you could look at this stuff is if you're trying to be memorable by having a unique voice. So introducing a different style or an approach to the art that you see regularly. If you can bring something new to the table from that side that might be inspiring to an art director or might be inspiring to a concept art team, that might help you get hired. So it's a completely other route to take. they're all kind of mutually exclusive. I don't see being able to really kind of do all three. Um, but yeah, those are some things you should think about when you're thinking about what to put into your portfolio. I think it goes without saying that you're going to put your very best in the portfolio. And I think that kind of ties into how many should I put in? How many pieces? You should only put in your absolute best into your portfolio. When you're looking at your portfolio and it is, cover to cover with your best work, go back in there and then take out the worst one. Maybe the next worst one too, just to be safe. You want to be your own toughest critic, but it's a good idea to work with friends and have friends look at it and really help you glean that stuff out. Because when you do take your portfolio to a pro, that might potentially hire you, you don't necessarily want to be asking, what should I take out, or what's wrong with my portfolio. You want them looking at all the best stuff. You also don't want to be put in a position where you're apologizing for anything in your portfolio. And I've definitely had that happen on a few occasions when I was looking at other people's work, at CTN events or, at hiring fair type things. Never be in a position where you have to apologize for anything. Layout, the artwork itself, lack of sketches and exploratory work. Be prepared and have your best. People generally have a hard time with the, how many should I put in question, because it really is kind of a relative one. Like I said, it's got to be only your best stuff, but you also don't want to overdo it. If you have too much best stuff, then you definitely have the opportunity for gleaning, and you should follow what I first said in terms of taking things out. But then the opposite can also be true. You may not have enough to really call it a book. Well, then that's kind of a time to sit and really consider where you're at. You really aren't, you may not be ready to be worrying about portfolio. And if that's the case, that's okay. You just keep working, work your ass off. You're probably at a stage where you need to be focusing on quantity and mileage than you are polish. And again, that's completely normal part of the learning process, and it's a part that is often ignored now when we consider the kind of speed that people are trying to force teach themselves. You got to put in those hours, you got to put in that time, you got to fill up sketchbook after sketchbook, fill a drive of paintings, and by the time you're done with that, you're going to have learned a shitload, and you're probably going to have some work that will be worth putting into that book. What about what will get me that job? Well, when it comes to your own art, you got to think about the reality of the market, that you are filling a portfolio and then putting that portfolio on the shelves along with thousands of other portfolios of other artists. So you have to really consider your competition. You need to sit down and honestly assess where you're at. Might be you need to stop worrying about a portfolio and worry more about improving, kind of like I was just saying. If you're in this position, again, don't worry. That's normal. That's part of learning. If you are fixating on a portfolio and you're not ready for the job, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by giving yourself just undue stress. And you're also shooting yourself in the foot by, focusing on the wrong thing at the wrong time. Don't let these reality check moments, bring you down or anything. I think with the real hardcore push for this autodidactic system that we've got going on, where we just chug and chug and chug on shitloads of online tutorials and Gumroad and all that stuff, it's so easy to forget why we got into, drawing and painting in the first place. And that was that it was something that was fun, or that it was a creative release at some point. If you find yourself wholesale freaking out about just your portfolio, and a fair chunk of that work in there is just meant to satisfy, I need a job, and I need to do exactly this thing, and none of it has the fun in it anymore. None of it's going to have your voice. None of it's going to have the heart. It's going to feel a little bit robotic. So try and remember to re-inject the fun and the creative release that you get from making this artwork and why you did it in the first place. The cool thing about making artwork that you care about and that excites you in some way is that if it's satisfying that urge to create, you're taking care of that one thing, but also you're developing work that will be usable for your portfolio. And let's say you're working, let's say you do have a gig and you're looking for something better. Working on passion projects is giving you work that's going to be able to fill your portfolio with work that you can show. Because as most of you know, when you're working on a project, you can't show most of that work. Sometimes for years. Believe me, I know. So why do I bring all that up? Well, I mean, the fact is, after you look through a couple of hundred portfolios in your career, you start to see some patterns. You can tell when, an artist is giving you what they think you want to see, and you can tell when an artist is really passionate and giving you something that they want to see. And more often than not, in my opinion, I'm more interested in seeing and hearing from a person that has that passion and that is excited enough about it to share it with me. So remember, your portfolio is a proof of your technical abilities, and it's meant to sell what you can do, but it also needs to kind of sell you. And it's going to be a marker for whoever's looking at it of the kind of projects you're into, the way you like to approach problems, and what it is you have to say. So don't forget that the other aspect of the portfolio is really selling yourself. So the question isn't only, what will it take to put in here to get me that job? It is, what do I need to inject in this in order to make people want to work with me, in order to make people see that I have something to offer more than just technical skills. As this really specialized education becomes more and more available for cheaper and cheaper online, and you can pick and choose from all of the greatest teachers you can imagine, it's no longer really going to be a question of the technical skills. It's going to have to eventually be that the most hireable people will be the ones that are very fast, the ones that are fun to work with, and the ones that have a unique vision or voice. Holy crap, have I been rambling. Sorry about that. Let me get back to that last question, which I don't think even should need to be asked, but I have heard is, should your portfolio be in print or should it be online? Now, the obvious answer to me is it should be both. It should be online because that's going to be the primary way that a potential hiring party will learn about you. But it should also be in print because when you show up to your interview and you only have a thumb drive, you're going to look like just a terrible asshat. I cannot describe to you how awkward it is trying to, find a room where, all the computers are set up and, that the files are viewable with the programs that are on that machine. Like, it's an embarrassment for everybody involved. When you're walking in for your interview, be prepared and, be prepared for worst case scenario. And that may just be like, you're going to be in a room where there's only a light source and a desk. And, it's going to be entirely operating on your charm and your book. So have a book. I also think it's, with the way things are nowadays, a lot of people show up with just a laptop or an iPad. That's acceptable, but I think having a book along with that is a great idea because when you're talking to multiple people, for instance, when I did my interview at Sony, I was talking to at least 10 guys. I think it was even more all at once. And if they're just trying to pass around an iPad, that's going to slow down the conversation severely. A nice big set of prints makes things a lot easier to read. So there's something to think about on that side. So let me close out with one sort of last question / piece of advice. I get asked a lot, when I'm making my portfolio, should I be angling more towards environment, or should I be angling more towards character, or should I try and be a generalist? What should I do? Well, that's a good question. It sort of comes from the background of I'm looking for a job specifically for making money, which is fine, as I said. But then, of course, what you need to do is, instead of asking what would be best, is to look at wherever it is you're trying to get a job, look at what is most likely to get you hired, and then put that stuff in your portfolio. So if the job is for a environment concept artist focused on sci-fi, you know what you need to do. If it's more of a figurative concept art job, designing creatures and characters, and it's set in a fantasy world, then you know what you need to do. So if you're looking to tailor your portfolio in order to get a job, then the answer is already there for you, and it's pretty straightforward. If you want to kind of do the shotgun approach, then definitely a generalist is a good way to go. You get yourself, a portfolio with a fair amount of characters, a fair amount of environments, some good props, lots of exploration and design, and you'll have a solid portfolio. But the next part of that would be in response to or in connection with what I've been saying, so far about, making yourself happy when you're doing your work, is think about this. Whatever you end up putting in your portfolio, that's what you're going to be hired to do. So you better like it. You better really enjoy it, because you're going to have to spend hundreds of hours working on stuff just like that. You get hired based on what they see in your work. You get hired because they have a problem, they see that you can solve it, and they will continually come to you for that problem to be solved in that way. So always include things, or always only include things in your portfolio that you like to do. Well, it looks like my time is about to wrap up. Hopefully you found my portfolio musings and meanderings useful in some way. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Hit the subscribe button or click like. And please stay tuned for the upcoming month with the release of episode 3, Keying the Field.
If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for future updates. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @CannibalCandy. Find in-depth articles on painting logic and philosophy at cannibalcandy.com. I'm adding demos and videos available for purchase on gumroad.com/cannibalcandy. And if you have a heart for adventure, please consider checking out my Patreon page, patreon.com/cannibalcandy.